This is Augie Macro with Cryptid Creatures. Today, we're going to discuss one of the bloodiest cryptid legends in history, the Goatman. Eyewitnesses described the Goatman as being a 6 to 8 foot tall humanoid creature with the upper body of a man, the legs and head of a goat, and large ram-like horns protruding from the top of its head. It is also said to have powerful arms, cloven hooves, and oftentimes 3-fingered clawed hands, wielding a club or an axe. Reports of the Goatman come from all across the world, particularly in the United States and in the area of the former Roman Empire in the Middle East, in Northern Africa, and in Southern Europe. And the creature is said to have a very distinct behavior. It is always said to be highly aggressive, with a violent and bloodthirsty nature, and in some accounts, even a sexually aggressive nature, in the case of some of the more ancient tales. Though the Goatman itself is known from more modern accounts, the idea of a half-man, half-goat creature goes back thousands of years. One of the earliest of these is the ancient Egyptian god Khnum, which was said to be a god of creation who controlled the flow of the Nile River and was said to have the head of a ram. In ancient times, some of the most famous accounts of half-man, half-goat creatures come from the mythologies of ancient Greece and ancient Rome, in the form of satyrs, the god Pan, and fauns. To investigate these legends further, we visited the Penn Museum in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here we are in the Warden Garden at the Penn Museum in Philadelphia, at the Borghese Satyr statue. This statue was donated to the museum in 1904 by philanthropist and department store owner John Wanamaker, and is a bronze reproduction of a marble sculpture at the Borghese Gallery in Rome, Italy. However, it is the subject of this statue that brings us here today. In ancient Greek mythology, satyrs are described as being bestial nature spirits, about 5 to 6 feet tall, with human-like bodies, hairy legs and cloven hooves, a tail similar to that of a horse, and occasionally horns protruding from the tops of their heads. Behaviorally, they are said to be aggressive, hedonistic, and hypersexual, with obscene senses of humor and a penchant for wine, women, and song. According to ancient Greek legend, an elder satyr named Silenus was said to mentor the god Dionysus in his youth, and since then, satyrs were said to be companions to the god of wine and celebration. However, this is not the only goat-like character in ancient Greek mythology. The god Pan, which was said to be the god of the wilderness and shepherds, is also described as having the hindquarters, legs, and horns of a goat in a similar manner to satyrs. As the ancient Romans adopted these ancient Greek stories, the stories of Pan evolved into the Roman god Faunus, and satyrs became fauns. These ancient tales of satyrs share many parallels with the modern accounts of Goatman, not only in their physical appearance, but also in their aggressive behavior.
although in the case of satyrs, this would be in the form of carnal lust rather than bloodlust. Are these ancient tales of the satyr and the god Pan and the modern accounts of the Goatman one and the same? We may never know.
Perhaps the most infamous of the Goatman accounts in recent years is that of the Maryland Goatman, which is said to make its home in the area of Prince George's County, Maryland, particularly in the towns of Beltsville and Bowie. Cryptid Creatures cameras went to investigate. According to local legend, the Goatman was born in the Beltsville Agricultural Research Center, a U.S. government facility run by the Department of Agriculture outside the town of Beltsville, Maryland. The Beltsville Agricultural Research Center was and still is used to research the potential for more efficient breeds of crops and livestock. And according to legend, this is where the Goatman was born. As the story goes, a Dr. Stephen Fletcher, who worked at the research center, had a twisted ambition to combine goat and human DNA to create a monster. However, in a freak laboratory accident, Fletcher himself was transformed into the Goatman, doomed to spend the rest of his days as the very abomination he wished to devise. Since then, throughout the 1970s especially, sightings of the Goatman occurred all throughout the area of Bowie and Beltsville in Prince George's County. It was said to terrorize Fletchertown Road in Bowie, Maryland, and the surrounding woods, with supposed casualties including lost pets and teenagers who spent too much time out at night. Another reported Goatman comes from the small town of Hubertus, Wisconsin, and is known as the Goatman of Hogsback Road. A few years ago, we went to Hogsback Road to investigate further. Here we are on Hogsback Road near Richfield, Wisconsin, where since 1870 there have been reports of a strange beast on the road. It has been named the Goatman of Hogsback Road, or the Goatman of Holy Hill. The creature is said to be half man, half goat, with large horns, sharp fangs, and reddish hair. It is known to attack teenagers driving on the road at night, sending them crashing to their deaths along its sides. It is also said that after their deaths, the Goatman will torment their souls for all time, creating a hotspot of ghost activity in the region. Are these legends true? Is there really a horrifying monster lurking along these roads, tormenting the souls of teenagers? We may never know. Beginning in the 1960s, reports of another Goatman began to crop up outside of Louisville, Kentucky, in the area around the Pope Lick train trestle. According to local legend, this train trestle is haunted by the Goatman, locally known as the Pope Lick Monster. It is said that late at night, teenagers would be lured onto the trestle by the creature, who is said to be able to mimic human voices. However, once they reached the top of the trestle, they would sense the oncoming train coming down the tracks, and they would discover that they had no means of escape. They would either be hit by the train or fall to their death into the ravine below, never to be seen again alive. However, there is a dark truth to this Goatman legend, as there have been at least 12 people found dead at the trestle, presumably in search of the Goatman. Perhaps this creature is more of a siren than we give it credit for. Starting in the 1940s, reports of the Goatman began to crop up in the area of Aliso Canyon in Southern California, particularly around Billiwhack Ranch in the town of Santa Paula. Billiwhack Ranch was a dairy farm that was owned by Swiss immigrant August Rubel. However, it is believed by some that after World War II, Rubel became involved with the OSS in a project to create super soldiers. It is believed that he was successful in this endeavor creating a half-man, half-goat bioweapon that escaped into the Aliso Canyon area to terrorize the locals. Some, however, believe that the Goatman in this area is much older, as there are Mexican tales of a Goatman-like creature referred to as the Chivo Man. Stories of this creature go back much earlier than the Rubel origin story can account for, with one report coming from a band of cowboys in the 1910s, who reported sighting the creature in Aliso Canyon. In July of 1969, reports of a white-furred, scale-covered Goatman came out of the area surrounding Lake Worth, near Fort Worth, Texas. The creature became known as the Lake Worth Monster. According to reports, was seen throwing tires off of a bluff and jumping on people's cars. About 35 miles from Lake Worth, there is another report of a Goatman, known as the Goatman of Old Alton Bridge. According to local legend, the creature began as a man named Oscar Washburn, who is a successful African-American goat farmer in the area, who attracted unwanted attention from the Ku Klux Klan and was lynched on the bridge. It is said that his vengeful spirit still remains around the bridge in the form of the Goatman. Another Goatman legend comes out of the small town of Waterford, Pennsylvania, and is known as the Waterford Sheepman. Here is an excerpt of the Grand Tour, the Cryptids, Creatures, and Curiosities of the Keystone State, where we discuss the legend.
In Erie County, on Route 19, about 11 miles northeast of Edinburgh, lies the town of Waterford, which is home to a terrifying, bloodthirsty beast.
Here we are in the town of Waterford, Pennsylvania, where during the 1970s reports of a strange, terrifying creature arose from this town. It was known as the Waterford Sheepman. Eyewitnesses reported a large, 7-foot-tall humanoid creature with the head and fur of a sheep, large horns protruding from its skull, and an insatiable thirst for blood. According to local legend, it would attack and dismember unwitting animals and even humans before consuming their viscera and blood. It was said to make its home along Baghdad Road, which we are standing near, and often frequented a covered bridge on the other side of town. It was said to hide in the rafters of this bridge, awaiting unsuspecting drivers to appear below it, before it would jump into their cars and attack them brutally in an attempt to murder and eat them. Those sightings of the creature continued throughout the 1970s. They completely stopped by the close of the decade. Why was this monster so bloodthirsty? Where did it go? And might it return again to this small town to rain terror upon it once more? We may never know. There have been many theories proposed as to what exactly the Goatman is. Some believe, in the case of the Billiwhack monster or the Maryland Goatman, that the creature is a genetic experiment gone wrong, that a mad scientist or some sort of corrupt government organization created this creature through genetic engineering or selective breeding to create a super soldier or some sort of monster. Some believe that it is simply an undiscovered hominid, similar in nature to Bigfoot or even Dogman. Some believe the creature to be a vengeful spirit or a spirit of judgment, some sort of non-physical entity, based on accounts such as the Goatman of Old Alton Bridge and the Goatman of Hogsback Road, which hint to a spiritual or otherwise supernatural origin. Some also believe this because of some of the moral themes that might arise out of some of these legends, such as the idea of it haunting lovers' lane areas or attracting teenagers who are staying out too late at night. An extension of this idea is that the creature is not a real animal or entity, but what is referred to as a lover's lane legend or a lover's lane story. And the idea of that is that it's a creature that resides in areas known as lovers' lanes, which would be places where teen couples could go off late at night and have semi-public intimacy. It is believed that these lovers' lane stories are meant to discourage these teenagers from going out late at night and being otherwise irresponsible. Another lovers' lane legend is that of an entity referred to as the Hookman, which is said to reside in many places across the United States, but one in particular is Pond Run Road outside of New Richmond, Ohio. Here we are on Pond Run Road outside the town of New Richmond, Ohio, where another Lover's Lane legend is told, that of the Hookman. The Hookman legend has been described all across the country, with new variations occurring everywhere that it has been told. The most common version of the story tells of a teenage couple who is alone in their car at night on a secluded lover's lane, when over the radio they hear news that a dangerous convict has just escaped prison and is recognizable by a metal hook that he wears in place of his hand. Suddenly, the teenagers hear a strange scratching noise from the outside of their car, and they drive away in terror. Once they have returned to the girl's home and the guy opens up the door for her, he discovers a disembodied metal hook hanging from the car door. However, the Pond Run Road legend takes a very different turn. As it is said, the Hookman was in fact a boy who once lived along the road and was abused by his parents, being isolated from the rest of the world and chained up in his basement. It is said that this left the boy severely scarred, both physically and psychologically. When his house was struck by lightning and burned down, his parents were found burned to death, and all the authorities could find of the boy was a singular severed hand. It is at this point where the story takes on the characteristic tropes of other Hookman legends, telling of teenage couples alone at night on the road being attacked or even murdered by the Hookman. It is said that these Hookman murders began sometime in the 1950s or 1960s, and this drove many of the residents to flee for their lives, and many other teenagers to investigate the area in search of the Hookman and the peril that he brings. Is the Hookman really out there? Is he truly the murderous villain that the legend tells, akin in bloodlust to the Goatman? Or is he simply an urban legend? We may never know. Some believe that the Goatman is simply a misidentification of some other animal, or perhaps even a hoax in the case of the Lake Worth monster and a few others. Some believe that the creature is an ultra-terrestrial in the same way Mothman or Dogman is believed to be an ultra-terrestrial, an entity that's able to traverse dimensions. And some even believe that the entity is more of an embodiment of evil, a demon or some sort of ancient malevolent force, due to its goat-like appearance, which harkens back to visions of biblical demons, and its connection to paganism with the satyr and cnoom and fauns. So, Is there really a half-man, half-goat creature out there with a thirst for blood? Is it the product of a mad scientist's experiment gone wrong? An as of yet undiscovered species? An ancient evil? Or simply an urban legend? We may never know. Thanks for watching, and to watch our previous and future episodes, visit the Cryptid Creatures YouTube channel. Like, subscribe, and tell your friends. Cryptid Creatures is brought to you by the Kitty Petters Union, Cobble Sound Recording Company, and my dad's show, Meet the Pressers. This is Cryptid Creatures with Augie Macro, signing off.